Hi, everybody. Mitch Tannenbaum here. Thanks for listening. I know that some folks are thinking that their CMMC strategy is that they're just going to get a waiver and then they don't have to do anything. Here's why that's probably not a workable strategy. So, the first thing is if you want to ask for a waiver, what you got to do is you got to get your um, the chief information officer from that particular component. You have to convince them, number one, and then they need to make a request to either the component service acquisition executive or the component acquisition executive, of which there's three of those, one for Army, Navy, Air Force. So you're talking about a person that's pretty high up in the food chain, and you're going to have to explain to them why it's important for them to risk their butt from a cybersecurity standpoint for you to be able to not have to comply with what everybody else is complying with. So I think that's a challenge. Um, Waivers can be requested for individual component procurements or a whole class of procurements. And then when it's a class, it's probably going to be DoD asking their service acquisition executive to go do that. And the justification for that is where including CMMC requirement might impede competition or delay the delivery of mission critical capabilities. So that's a pretty high bar. And if the contract requires both access to classified and unclassified stuff, waivers are not an option. So that's what. Now let's kind of go through the food chain here. CMMC Level 1 waivers are not likely to be approved because this is a self-assessment and it just requires compliance with the FAR 52.204-21. So if you have a requirement for Level 1, I wouldn't even bother asking for a waiver because you're not going to get it. Where under some limited circumstances, it's possible that you might get a waiver is for a level 2 third-party assessment requirements. In particular, that's going to be the case where you're not a traditional DoD contractor. Maybe, you've got some capability that DoD wants, but for the most part, you're not a DoD contractor and, you could go get that assessment, but you're just going to add the $50,000 or $100,000 bill, for that to the contract. And I suppose, if DoD is willing to write you a check to get a third-party assessment, including all the work that's necessary to prepare for that, I guess that's okay. But if you're not part of the normal DoD food chain, DoD is going to say, well, is it really worth spending $50,000 to $100,000, including the cost to get ready, for us to buy this one product, and we're probably never going to see this company again. So that's a possibility. For CMMC Level 3, even fewer situations where that's going to be allowed. And again, if the CMMC Level 3 includes classified as well as unclassified work, again, waivers are not permitted. So, all in all, I'm painting a pretty bleak picture here, which I think is legit for you to actually be able to get a waiver. And to make it even less attractive, for waivers, if you're granted a waiver, the contractor has to submit an alternate protection plan for securing federal contract information or controlled unclassified information, which will be evaluated during the selection process. And the service acquisition executive or the component acquisition executive has to report up their food chain to DoD, if you will, corporate every quarter, saying, here's the waivers we granted and here's why we granted them. So they're going to be much less likely to go do that because they can't do it quietly and under the covers. They have to report to multiple DoD offices what they're doing in terms of granting waivers. And that includes the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, ANS. So waivers are not going to look good on the service acquisition executive's report card, which means that they're not likely to want to grant that. So all in all, if that's your strategy, my suggestion is come up with a different strategy, because I don't think it's going to work. And it's especially true if you can't afford to lose the DoD segment of your business. If DoD is a small portion of your business and either it works or it doesn't work and you don't really care one way or the other, that's one thing. But if DoD is a major component of your revenue, then hoping to get a waiver is really not a recommended strategy. If you haven't started on your CMMC plan, please contact us right away, because you don't have much time. You don't really know what's going to happen. And other people are counting on being able to self-attest and lie about it. That may or may not work either. So if you don't have a good CMMC strategy yet, please reach out to us today. We'll be happy to help you work on that and get ready to be assessed and help you through the assessment process. But it's coming. It's coming. So with that, thanks for listening. As always, we appreciate your time, and we'll be happy to help you. Stay safe.